I've got a nice list of things that we wanted to chat about, so we can just chat about them.
Cool.
Right. I closed the book, obviously, because that wasn't helpful. But it's my wet to-do list. Oh, I like that. Anyone got something burning they want to talk about, though, before I start picking and choosing? Yeah, go on, Alex.
Just in my microphone. So
I thought you were saying
I was like, never ever go to an auction. Alex.
No. What's on my hands?
£1 million.
So I wanted to talk about social games, because I think that is the thing that is interesting, is that when we were talking about games that we can recommend to Anya, we were talking about games that are not social. And I mean, partly that was because of the Xbox, but also it's partly because I wouldn't find myself saying to my friends, yeah, try Rust, you'll love it, because I'd be worried about them. So the way Rust works is that there is a voice chat. When you get close to somebody, you can press V and they can hear you and you can hear them. And also there is a text chat in the corner for the whole server. And it's, a lot of the stuff that was being shown that was live streamed during the storming of the Capitol yesterday, that's basically what Rust is like a lot of the time. And in fact, the Rust subreddit last night was going mad with, the fact, they're online raiding the Capitol, etc. It's a bunch of nakeds with rocks and stuff, and making various jokes and things about it, because the communities have a horrible overlap. But I still think that it's one of those games that you find the right server for you. You find the right server where there are nice people, where it's run by a decent admin. So you will find some servers that say literally no toxicity, no racism, no sexism, no homophobia. You can set up the chat so it auto-boots somebody as soon as they say a certain word. So you can set it up so that it's a much nicer environment. And I often think that it's worth us as feminist gamers getting into games and creating those spaces to make them safer so that people can enjoy them. But I was wondering if you guys had any games or areas where you felt that was the case too.
To bounce off what you were just saying, this is part of the matrix of the patriarchy that I have now had revealed to me. One of the biggest things is how dangerous the world is for women and every marginalized group in a way that it has never been for me, because I'm a cisgender, straight, white man, middle class, for whom the patriarchy is built. And just I think if I could go into any social place on the internet and just sit there in the background and not have anyone take issue with it. But you're saying about these, none of you know what you're getting into, when you leave the house, let alone going into, and that's the same with anywhere, including gaming spaces. So it's shitty and difficult, and you're right. You have to, like with the Women's Equality Party, you have to create the space, and then you need to make that the best space. And it's shitty, but I think I don't know what the answer is.
Well, no, but you do highlight a good point there, Matt, that there is a certain degree of privilege. I am white, I am cis, I am middle class, and that means that I am a little bit more confident. And the fact that I went to a private school where you constantly have it drilled into your head that you are the best in society gives you that sort of so I'm able to go into those and be a bit more bolshy and a bit more confident. But, it's other people aren't going to feel safe. Doxing does happen. Things like that do happen where there's a reason why it's not just, we don't want someone to be nasty to us. Although that's bloody horrible anyway, but there is also a genuine danger for some people. Now, Jamie, you've probably played the most social games over the decades. Do you think it's got worse or better? I mean, you haven't played as many recently, but would you be more reluctant to now than you were 10 years ago, do you think?
I don't think I'd be more reluctant to play now because I think I've got a thicker skin, and I think I've kind of seen it all now, I think. And I think that it probably is worse now because I think that things like Gamergate and the general shift to the right and a bit of a backlash with the whole Me Too movement and things like that, I think has emboldened the kind of person that is going to make a space uncomfortable for people that don't fit into their whatever mold that they think. I think with regards to what you can do about it, I think it's like any other area. The more people from a diverse background that you can bring into a space, the better. You know, the more people that are there, the more they can stand up and say no, or this isn't okay, or they can just you just gently shift it from being acceptable to being unacceptable behaviour. And I think that's really, and I noticed in as over the years, as more women have gained, that we are seeing, you know, female characters that aren't sexualized. I mean, we've talked a lot about how sexualized female characters are, but there are more and more that aren't, and there are more and more who are, you know, merging traditional gender roles and all of that sort of thing. So I think there is, you know, as we see more female gamers, as we see more diverse gamers, then the acceptance of those gamers improves. I think the other thing is moderation. It's just having a zero tolerance to this kind of crappy behaviour. When I was on the Mud, I helped to run it, and one of my roles was actually moderation. And there was always a big debate about, you know, what's a swear word, or what's acceptable language, what's acceptable way to behave. You know, if you're in a game and you're having and your character is supposed to be an evil, nefarious rogue, you know, is it okay if they go around and kill every new player that logs into the game instantly? You know, is that just role playing, or is that being mean? And I think there's a real kind of process of understanding what is and isn't acceptable behaviour in that, and that is something that would be informed by having more people from all the various groups to be able to say, actually, no, I'm fine with that, you know, that is role playing, or no, that makes me really uncomfortable and I don't like it. And,
I genuinely, on most Rust servers, more time is dedicated to discussing whether it's acceptable for the admins or the moderators, whoever, to stop people offline raiding than it is to deal with racism, homophobia, etc. It's like, you know, well, we don't want to drive people away from the server, so it's really important that you don't offline raid somebody on their first day, or that you leave the noobs alone and stuff like that. But then when you're like, and also, you know, the racism, the homophobia, the misogyny, yeah, well, we don't think people really care about that. Anyway, Alex, social gaming, what do you think?
I have a few thoughts on this, actually, and I'm going to bring in a sort of looking at it from a equality perspective and arguing for equity and equality, because I've been doing a lot of work with disability equality training, and I think it's really good to have like that positive representation there from different groups and things, but there's also, you have to be aware that by putting yourself out there and being positive about it, you are in a sense also making yourself vulnerable. If that, I don't know if that is making sense. I think it is. So, you know, like, it is a good thing to represent from underrepresented groups, but you're also putting yourself on a particular platform. So in that sense, also, you've got to be aware that the burden for making people more aware of these issues and making people more aware of how their behaviour might not be particularly tolerant is also sometimes if it's left to just us to deal with it, can be a bit of a burden. So it needs to be kind of the responsibility of everybody, not just the person from that particular group, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to blow that into, look, you remember the Black Lives Matter protests in America. That was so, like, racism is a white person's responsibility to stop. Toxic the patriarchy is the men's. It's their fault, so it's their problem, but it's always left to the victims, isn't it? So you're right about you. It should be allies swelling up with you, and I think it was. You go.
Sorry, I was going to say at the same time, there is a way of being a good ally and a bad ally in a sense as well. In that when you're a good ally, you let the person from the underrepresented group speak of their experiences rather than speaking for them. I think that's a really key point to remember. And also, I think just supporting and I think a phrase that came up a lot while I was doing a lot of reading into the Black Lives Matter movement, and in fact, Black people with disabilities as well, was that they were saying that you should push to amplify Black disabled voices, because there is a sort of hierarchy even within different groups of various different people. And if you amplify those at the lowest stage of that hierarchy, it's actually better for everybody, which was a really, really interesting thing to listen to and hear about. I think that was in the summer this year. I was doing a lot of webinars and that sort of thing.
So Hannah, go ahead.
Just was going to say, and that that's the absolute core of intersectional feminism, and that's what we is getting those voices of the people who are the most marginalised. It also annoys me is that, and I'm reluctant to say this on our podcast, but I'm going to kind of hope that it's not too bad because it's not the live one. As most people know that I used to be an evil Tory a long time ago in my dark past. Matt didn't know. You can tell.
I didn't know that.
Tell when people didn't know.
I didn't know, but I did it well.
I won't tell you about my dark past.
Shut this off now.
But no, I mean, I was as somebody who was quite politically interested and quite liberal, I got recruited by the whole everyone should just be allowed to do what they want to do. I'm not going to do the whole spiel I always do, but just trust me, I used to be a Tory, I'm not anymore, and there's good reasons for it. But what annoys me is the mockery that people within the right wing make. They will always say, all these bloody socialists, all they want is a black disabled lesbian. And for them, it's the sort of mockery of it. And what they aren't understanding is that the reason that we talk about these intersections is because if you are black playing a computer game, life is a bit shit. What you see in the chat is pretty depressing. If you are a woman, it's worse, compounded with your watching misogyny and racism at play. You then add in your disability, and it's even worse. You add in the homophobia, and it's that intersections are so important. And as you say, Alex, it's the raising up of people who are experiencing all of these areas, not playing top trumps with which ism is causing more problems, but understanding that there are intersections where these things come together.
Definitely, yeah, I would agree there. But again, how to get that message into gaming is a problem I don't know how to solve. But I'm sure there's a way around it, and I think something like this is a good way to start because we're just talking about it.
Absolutely.
And hope it will make people more aware and want to have these kinds of conversations.
I was
thinking about.
Yes, Matt.
I was thinking about I think Jem, it was you who was talking about the culture of like online servers and chats and all these places, and thinking about how the men who are in their 30s and 40s now are the ones who were in their teens and early 20s when like the first big multiplayer games were coming up. So the communities there are now the older parts of the communities, and the people at the young. So you say, you're playing now. When you play now, it's still bad, and so that means the young boys in that community are being taught by the men who started this toxic community, which is sort of like a microcosm for the whole of life and patriarchy. It's been bad men making a bad thing and then teaching the bad thing to the young men, and on and on and on it goes.
It's like when we were talking about how we all got into gaming and who introduces to gaming. It's mostly men, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I'm just thinking about that. Yeah, it is. It's like boyfriends, and I have 4 older brothers
Yeah.
as well. And so, yeah, it's very much been male influence on it. But I got into feminism a lot later than some people, so in my life. Although, anyway, musing. Jem, did you look like you wanted to say something? And I just couldn't think of a good segue to bring you in.
No, I'm really fascinated actually by this. I think it just goes to show, doesn't it, that it doesn't matter what segment of society you go into, the general ills of society and the general things that affect society impact there. So gaming isn't some special little bubble where these things don't affect, or they affect worse, or anything really like that. I think it's just the same stuff is trickling through, and I think there is a issue around sharing. Actually, I think it comes down to this sort of zero-sum game. Like, if I let them have more equality, then I'll have less equality, which obviously isn't what the word means, and is an eternal frustration for me. And I think that the problem really gets bad once you get into groups that feel marginalized in any way, because they feel like they fought so hard to get what they've got. They don't want to share it with anyone else. They don't want to lift people up. And I absolutely agree with Alex, that we need to be lifting everyone up, and that by lifting everyone up, we lift everyone up. And I think that's something we're struggling with globally, actually, at the moment. I think we're struggling with it across the board. And I think it's, as you were saying about the similarities between the Rust community and what was happening in the US, what is happening in the US, there is this feeling, this that if we let them have more, we will have less. And I think actually that doesn't have to be the case, but I think it is. And I think the gaming world, certainly traditionally, I think this is changing. It's becoming more mainstream and it is becoming more common. But back when I started gaming, most of the people that you would find in an online environment, social gaming, were people who had various issues and reasons that drove them online. They didn't feel comfortable in society because maybe they were different, or they were shy, or they were bullied, or they were, there was all sorts of reasons. And so those people there that are now, as you say, teaching the new generation to be bad, gamers, I think that that was their space. They were already ostracized in society, so they were struggling in their own ways. And I think so I think that's my compassionate way to look at this situation.
I think you do raise an interesting point, because you say it's not a thing, but there is. If we do a quick potted history of gaming, and Matt and Alex, I'm going to be horribly patronising and assume you don't know your history, but you probably do. But the original, when we're talking about these ZX Spectrums and the Amstrad CPCs, they were not advertised to boys. They were advertised to children. They were advertised as family games. There was very much, gaming was not the exclusive zone of young teenage boys when games first launched. That was a thing that came later. There was a TV series, which I'm hoping Jem remembers, because otherwise I'm just going to look crazy, which is Games Master, where Patrick Moore of the Sky at Night was a giant computerized head who would give advice to small children about how to get past a level on a game, because you couldn't look it up on the internet then. So you had to write into Channel 4, go on TV and talk to the computerized head of Patrick Moore to find out how to get past a level on Sonic. But I was thinking back to this the other night. Those kids who were talking to Patrick Moore's head, they were white, they were black, they were Asian, they were female, they were male, they were all, there was not one particular type. And particularly in the early series of Games Master, there was not this sort of blokey stuff thing. Later series of Games Master, where idiot who went out, it's a long story, but he said he was going to crucify himself and then wussed out. Not that you should wuss out of, but it's like, why start boasting you're going to crucify yourself if you're going to wuss out of it later? But Dustin Diamond? No, that's the guy who played Screech on Saved by the Bell. Dominic Diamond was the host in later years, and this is around the same time that you start getting a lot of zines, you start getting a lot of the internet's just starting to build up. And it's there that you see this culture of toxic masculinity taking over the world of gaming. So there was a point, and I think it's interesting, like, you know, Jem and I grew up more in an era where even, I mean, I know you said, Jem, that you didn't know lots of girls who game, but it was more acceptable as small children for us to game than it is later on. And I wonder if we could take that narrative back, if we can change it, because if gaming was once the preserve of everybody, and there was a horrible bunch of people who changed it in the late 90s, how do we fix it?
I think diversity is the answer to every question. Because, like I was saying with The Last of Us Part 2, you bring in a very diverse team to create a very diverse game, and then that's the ecosystem that produces the best quality and the best quality of life for everyone in it. But then the problem is you've got the why right-wing nationalism is so powerful is because this is an ecosystem which is vulnerable because it doesn't exert power over everyone in it. It holds their equality. But then if a white supremacist comes in and says, no, we're the best, they can't solve all their problems, we're the best. There will always be people who think like that because there are things to be gained like that. And so just all I can see is building the spaces and making them more diverse and trying to take over that way. Because it's a millennia old problem of how do you stop this patriarchal madness. And as far as I can see, diversity is the only way.
Alex and Jem, have you got a feminist game? Is there a game that you think is like, because I only don't ask Matt because you told us The Last of Us is your example of your feminist game. It's just like, is there a game that you see as like, if you wanted to say to one of our feminist friends who's not into gaming, who thinks it's, what would be your feminist game that you'd point them towards? Alex, you still thinking?
I am. It's very difficult. Yeah.
Jem?
I don't think I would. I don't think that I can think of anything that I would say is a feminist game because I don't really think of gaming in that way. I think of gaming in the same way that I think of my life. You know, there are some bits that are sexist and there are some bits that aren't, and I potter through and deal with it as it comes up. So no, I don't think there's any games. I mean, like I said earlier,
I don't think I could answer that question immediately. I think there are feminist moments in games. There are moments where I suddenly go, "Oh, how exciting! I can be the same as the male character," or there's the same number of women as. I mean, the one that's driving me nuts at the moment is Left 4 Dead 2. Which is great relaxations, shooting loads of zombies, but on the character selection, there's one female. There are 3 men and 1 female. And so every time Oscar's sitting there going, ooh, what character shall I be? And I'll be the one woman. Great.
I think you've made the point there, actually. I think that what I spot more is the times when women aren't catered to, when something isn't diverse, or I do spot when something is diverse. Now I'll spot it's and I think that's really, that shows, I think, the world that we live in, that it's like a tidy house. You know, nobody notices that it's tidy, but they notice when it's messy. And I think, it's the same for me with gaming. I wouldn't know what a feminist game was, but I would know about the various bits in games where I've gone like, so annoying.
Yeah, so I suppose, Alex, the question is to you is, what's your best feminist moment in a game?
Well, I was just thinking actually of like diversity in games, and I suppose one of the most diverse games I played this year was Strange Brigade, which is multiplayer. I think it's made by the same people who make Sniper Elite.
Not
And
diversity, but
it's really cool. It's like a 1930s comic kind of I can't think of the word. It's kind of like an adventure, but like a comic book style, and yeah, it's all set in ancient Egypt, and you go raid tombs and shoot zombies, and it's really fun. But there's like about 4 or 5 different characters that you can play, 2 of which are women, one of which is a Scottish woman with a shotgun. The other woman, I think, is a Zulu warrior, possibly, but she is kind of semi-naked, so that's possibly not good. And then there's mostly kind of Cockney bloke with a sniper rifle, and then the archaeologist, middle class white guy who has an extra power to open secret doors and stuff. And then there was one bonus character who was a kind of colonial, well, I suppose I would have been what would have been the British Indian Empire kind of model Indian person, which was also quite fun to play. But yeah, in terms of like, I suppose ethnicities and things, it was fairly even, I would say. But yeah, it's a very difficult question to answer, really.
Yeah, no, I realised that after I asked it that I can't answer it myself. Because generally,
that's not fair.
Whatever I am being, there's not a good idea to ask that question. So I'm going to ask you a different question instead, because I've been checking out.
Can I say one last thing on it?
Of course you can, Matt. Always.
One other thing that intersectional feminism gives you is you get to experience the profound joy of what diversity is and what is capable with diversity. So I'm exactly the same when I see a TV show where I go, oh, look at the breadth of talent and diversity, where you go, yeah, you can really experience it. It's as simple as when I see when I'm out and about before the pandemic, when people actually went out, you see an interracial couple walk past holding hands, and you think 20, 30 years ago that would have been such a big deal. And seeing 2 little kids of different races playing together, that the simplest of things like that fills me with joy. And then when you get to see that in games and TV and film, that's diversity is the answer, in my opinion, and the joy that it brings.
And I think it's the normalising of that as well, which is brilliant. Yeah. I'm completely topic changing now, just because I think it's fun. Mobile phone games. Are they games? Do we consider, because statistically, and I don't have my statistics in front of me, I'll look them up later and put them on as like a sort of, I wonder if I could do like pop-up video, make something appear next to my head. But there are more women than men who play games. That is a true fact. There are more women than men who play video games, and the average age of people who play video games are actually closer to 60. And that is if you include mobile phone games. That's why those statistics exist. So are we going to be the sort of people who exclude mobile phone games? And match 3 games obviously is like the biggest part of that, and getting your Candy Crush, getting your line of 3 colours and stuff like that. What place do those games have in gaming society?
It's quite puzzly games. If you're going to categorise them, they would be puzzly games. Although, having said that, the one mobile game that I spent the longest time with, it was like an obsession for about a couple of months of my life, and then I just never picked up again. I don't even know why. Was Fallout Shelter.
Which
anyone remembers that?
I've played that.
Yeah, which was an obsession of mine for like 2 months solid, and then I just dropped it entirely. which was very odd.
Because it's one of those where you're just clicking and just expanding.
Yeah.
So I've played a lot of those. I've played the sort of the Jurassic Park on your phone, the Sims on your phone and stuff, where there's no skill to it whatsoever. You just come back every few hours and press a add button or a thing button.
And then make people have babies in the shelter and all sorts. Yeah.
Make them have them.
Yes, yes. You need to expand your population.
You repopulate the species.
No, one of my favourite games on my phones at the moment is a thing called Cells, which is just I go in every now and then and clicks. Just I can be watching TV and I can just mindlessly tap as fast as I can, and it will generate more DNA, which will generate the evolution of a species, which will eventually generate more things. But again, there's no skill to it. So why do we enjoy playing this? Jem, do you play any mobile games?
I do, but I'm really quick to get bored with them. I get very bored very quickly. The one that I think lasted the longest is Merge Dragons, which is sort of appeals to the tidier in me, which doesn't exist in the real world. But the idea of just clearing everything up, because you just have to merge 3 or 5 of things and then it pops into something else. But I started to realise it, as you say, it didn't have any purpose. I wasn't really going anywhere. There was no goal to it. And as I've said before, I am very time poor when it comes to gaming. And I feel like if I'm going to spend my time doing something, then just like with exercise or what I eat and drink, I want it to be nice stuff. I want it to be most bang for my buck. But I did play a game called, I was just looking it up actually, I did play a game called A Dark Room. And I think there's a lot of scope for these kind of games on mobile. So that was basically just, it was such a weird game. It's like a text adventure, but it isn't a text adventure. It's a best-selling mobile game, and you just made a series of decisions, and it had a little ASCII map that you could walk around, and you could die and have to go back to the start. But it was just so, there was something very calming about it. But it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. It had a goal, and I was going somewhere. And I think the other one I play is Your Majesty, which is a swiping one. You swipe cards left and right depending on whether you want to go to making choices on each. And the idea is to keep your monarch alive. You are the monarch, and to keep yourself alive for as long as possible based on a series of decisions that you make and how they impact. It's sort of puzzly and the good thing about it is that you can dip into it for 5 minutes and dip out again. But again, that has a progression, that has you don't go up levels, but you're going through a process. So I think those are the things.
I think you're right. That's one of the things mobile games lack too often is the progression. Now, Matt, with your job, I would assume that you are, because like Jem just said, the ability to dip in and out. I spent most of my life playing mobile games on public transport, waiting for buses, things like that. It's that waiting. It's a nice thing you can dip in and out of. Do you find it useful for you? Do you like mobile games? Do you not?
100%. It's something very, very mindful, because you literally everyone has their phone on them all the time. I just pick it up, and the main things I play at the minute is a ball shooting game where it's a bit like reverse Tetris. You shoot a ball and it's the right colours and it pops them off. And
Bubble Witch.
Bubble Witch, that's the one.
Love that game.
Awesome. It's just the most joyful, relaxing, makes you feel good, gives you that like dopamine hit, like taking drugs, and just go boop, 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 boop. And then I've found a Warhammer game that I can play, which is awesome. Candy Crush, I've gotten back into that a little bit. I've spent so many hours. It's a way to pass time. And yes, you're right, at work when I'm waiting in between deliveries. Tons of time playing mobile games. But now I got, if I can find it. Oh, never mind. No, it's a so now I'm playing on my laptop as well, my new laptop, and I got for Christmas a battery pack, a massive fucking battery pack that means that I could sit in my car and play games for like 8 hours if I wanted to. That's a topic for another time.
But do you know what
and then
go on.
So moving on from games that I have played to ones that I don't really play, some of the biggest games in the world are on the phones. Like Pokemon Go absolutely blew the arse out of the world a few years ago.
Into that until
I forgot to mention that was also another one I played for months and then never picked up again because it just drained my battery too much.
Yeah.
And people must all see the the games. I can't remember what any of them are called now. The ones with like orcs and all the Twitch streamers seem to make hundreds of billions of dollars somehow. They're advertised everywhere. So
because they're not much fun. But do you know what's very interesting is that out of all the games we've just mentioned that we've played on mobile gaming, every time we've just talked about games that we've played, I can think of feminist issues with those games. There's not a lot of feminist issues with most of those mobile games. Most of your match 3 games. I mean, the Bubble Witch, she's not that sexualised, is she? And stuff
she's still skinny. Skinny and pretty.
She is, but no, I think some of those games are more accessible because they don't have those hard edges, because they don't have that high sort of like thing, and there are a lot of women who, when I've spoken to them about, do you want to talk about feminism in gaming? Well, I'm not a gamer. I'm like, you spend hours on your phone playing them.
Now, what level on Candy Crush are you?
Exactly. And I think it's that identification of what is a gamer that has become, definitely since the early 2000s, gatekept, has been kept away, has made women feel that gaming is not something that they are part of, that if you're not playing Call of Duty, you're not a gamer.
It feels a lot like... I was just going to say, it feels a lot like if you ask a woman if they're a feminist, there's a lot of baggage that comes along with that, so women would hesitate to go, and men as well. Yeah. So if someone asks me, are you a feminist? I'll go, yes, bloody am, bloody right. But there will be plenty of men who feel the same as me, who if you ask them if they're a feminist, I go, I don't think so. Same with gaming. Say, are you a gamer? Say, no, that's a bit weird. I'm on level 3000 on Candy Crush, but I'm not a gamer because that's got stigma attached to it.
Alex and Jem, do you feel you've got friends who are gamers who don't identify as gamers?
I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here, because I think that there is something to be, well, perhaps not something to be gained, but something to be said for not lumping everyone into the same group. I take the point, and I think that casual gaming and puzzle gaming and all of that is gaming, but I think there is a difference between people that spend lots of time in fully immersive worlds, looking at the landscape, discuss, the things that we've talked about, things that inspire us in a game. The landscape's amazing. The character. I really felt like I was there. All of those things. I think you don't get that playing Candy Crush. You do get a mindlessness about it, and I think that is different game, but you don't get that immersion. And I think it is a different. It's almost like trying to say that somebody who reads chick lit is the same as somebody who reads horror, or high-end fantasy. They're very different genres, and the sorts of people that would do that might be quite different people, even though some will dip into, I dip into all of those. I
use the phrase chicklet now. I'm like, no.
But I think there is I think the issue is just like with diversity, it's different but equal. I think that's the thing, it's different gaming.
I'm going to ask Alex what she thinks before you get too close to separate but equal there, Jen.
Yeah.
Alex?
I think I had a phrase I was going to say, but now I've forgotten it. Hold on, it'll come back. I was going to say that people get their sense of escapism in different ways, and that's not necessarily the same way other people do. And I think that's true of gaming, because there are some guys I've met that aren't into gaming, obviously, because not every guy is either, and that's fine. And I think there are different levels of gaming that some people will engage up to a point, and then they'll be fine just doing other things. And some people will go like fully into gaming, I guess, like we are, and then just perhaps not even engage in other forms of escapism or other types of popular culture. But again, I think that's just because we're all diverse people and we all like different things, which is fine. And we shouldn't box people, like Jem said. We shouldn't criticize people for their particular choices.
Yeah. And what you saying that then just spun off a whole other idea that I want to talk about, which is like that sort of within masculinity, the gamers themselves, the male gamers, tend to feel that they are a subgroup themselves. That you see all the memes about how much they hate chads, because it's like the whole thing is that the chads are the model type men, the sort of thing. And that's a whole other discussion topic, as with everything. So we have 5 minutes left, people. We have 5 minutes left. I think the most important thing that we discuss now, the biggest issue is, and I'm hoping everyone here has played it to some extent, is Pokemon. Jem's looking at me like, where's she going with this? I don't know, Jem. I don't know either, but I'm hoping I'll get to the end of this. No, it struck me that when Matt mentioned this the other day, Pokemon is an RPG. And it is an RPG. And also, then again, I was thinking about what are some of the few games where you don't feel that masculinity is there. But Pokemon is not one of them, because if you have played Pokemon, you are a male character. You are going from town to town to the gyms to prove yourself, to fight for your right as the best Pokemon trainer. And I don't know where I'm going with this. I'll edit this bit out. I'm literally... I was hoping I'd have a profound point about Pokemon.
I've just got the theme tune in my head now. So we could always just overlay the theme tune and
the most important thing we're going to discuss, Carolyn. That's what you said.
Right, Matt, I'm going to have to say this to you now. It's Caroline, not Caroline.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's just
Caroline.
Like, there's a point where I was like, I have to say this or else it will go too far. And I'm saying that now. Right. What is
Caroline.
gone? Let's do a final 5 minutes as of what is your thing that you were like, I wanted to say that today, and then I can cut them up into nice little sound bites and stuff like that, because the Pokemon thing clearly wasn't going. I went to a private school, and private school teaches you, as you will see from our current government, to bullshit, to just absolutely bullshit your way and act like confidently like you know what you're doing all the time. And I could have seen that through, but I'm just no. So what's your one thing that you wanted to say from today? Each have a turn.
It's just really nice to see. Sorry, I'm going to go. It was really nice to see how many people joined us on the stream and the chat that was happening, and just how many people felt the same way. Really, it was just really lovely to see. And that's all.
The one thing I didn't get a chance to do, which I'll get a chance to do now, is to show off one of my favourite pieces of gaming memorabilia.
Oh yeah,
my Bridge Baby from Death Stranding, and I spent so much money on him, and he's and I didn't
but
I love him.
Before, sorry. We'll get the Bridge Baby at some point.
Oh yeah, no, it's just been really nice to talk about gaming in a positive light. Actually, I feel like even though we're talking about some of the challenges and difficulties that gaming presents us with. I think we're looking at it from a very positive perspective, and I think that's really good, because I think especially in our line of activism, I think we've come across a lot of this isn't how it should be, and not a lot of this is how it could be, and this is how we can get to how it could be. And I think that for me it's good to be able to talk about ways that we can change things for the better.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.